Hello and welcome to Ballot Meridian 2018 primary election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Chloe Peter. Joining me in the studio is Steve Cook, Superintendent for Haslett Public Schools, to tell us more about the two proposals for the Haslett Public Schools on the August 7th ballot. But before we go into our interview, let's take a look at the ballot language. The first proposal we will take a look at on the ballot is the Haslett Public Schools bonding proposal stating, shall Haslett Public Schools, Ingham, Clinton, and Shiawassee counties, Michigan, borrow the sum to not exceed $32,700,000 and issue its general obligation unlimited tax bonds therefore for the purpose of erecting, furnishing, and equipping additions to school buildings, remodeling, furnishing, and refurnishing, and equipping and re-equipping school buildings, acquiring and installing instructional technology and instructional technology equipment for the school buildings, erecting, remodeling, improving, furnishing, and equipping athletic facilities, athletic fields, and support buildings, purchasing school buses, and developing and improving playgrounds, driveways, parking areas, and sites. On the screen, there's additional information regarding this millage. The next proposal we will take a look at is the Haslett Public Schools Sinking Fund millage proposal, which states, shall the limitation on the amount of taxes which may be assessed against all property in Haslett Public Schools, Ingham, Clinton, Shiawassee counties, Michigan, be increased by, and the Board of Education be authorized to levy to not exceed 0.7689 mil, or $0.7689 on each $1,000 of taxable valuation for a period of 10 years, 2019 to 2028 inclusive, to create a sinking fund for the construction or repair of and purchase of real estate for sites for school buildings, for school security improvements, for the acquisition or upgrading of technology, and other purposes authorized by law. The estimate of the revenue will be the school district will collect if the millage is approved and levied in 2019 is approximately $450,000. Now that we had a chance to look at the ballot language of both Haslett Public Schools proposals on the ballot, Steve, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Brandy. Appreciate it.
There are two separate proposals on the ballot in August 7th. Can you explain each of them, beginning with the bonding proposal?
Sure. So the bonding proposal is giving the ability for the district to go out and issue bonds in the amount of roughly $33 million. And our existing debt rate, which is paying off our current debt, will not change. So there's no increase in the current millage rate for that particular issue. And so we'll issue bonds sometime in the fall, and we'll use the $33 million to basically give a facelift to all our instructional buildings. So we have three areas of focus. One is to increase safety and security in the buildings. The second is to upgrade our classrooms to the 21st century. And the third piece is to update our extracurricular athletic facilities in our district. So those are really the three main areas of focus. Most of the money will be giving a facelift to all of our buildings. It's been almost 20 years since we've had any major improvements done in our district, so the bond really gives us the ability to do those upgrades that have been needed for many years. So that's the first proposal.
And then what about the second proposal?
So the second proposal is a sinking fund. It's actually the ballot language. It's a new proposal, although it's really a renewal of an existing millage that's in place right now. The reason that it's not called a renewal is because we're adding language to the ballot, which includes both technology and safety and security. So our old sinking fund, that language was not in there, so adding that language. And because we're adding that language, it can't be called a renewal. But essentially, it's really the renewal of an existing millage rate that's in place. So both proposals won't increase tax rates for taxpayers in our community.
So to go a little more in depth, why was it necessary for the district to put these proposals on the ballot?
Well, the state really does not give us dollars to do major improvements to our buildings. Most of our K-12 budget that's funded through the state goes for instructional purposes. So it's not uncommon for districts to go out for either bonds or for sinking funds to do major improvements to the facilities. So this is one of the routes that that school districts do, and so we're basically just taking advantage of those opportunities for our district.
So if the proposals are approved, where specifically will the money go? I'm thinking in terms of which schools, what projects you have in mind.
We have 5 instructional buildings, so all of our buildings will get a facelift. So in terms of parking lots, classrooms, carpet, lighting, all of those things that roofing, all of those things that have not been attended to over the last several years. So basically all of our instructional facilities inside and outside will get a facelift and we'll get some improvements.
So if the money is not coming from taxpayers extra, where is it coming from then? Clear.
It's when you say not coming from,
You said
it's not going to increase the existing millage rates in place. So we already have a debt millage rate in place. We also already have the sinking fund in place now. So the debt millage that's currently in place will not increase. We'll just extend our debt out a few more years to be able to issue the bonds. And the sinking fund will just be a renewal of the existing millage rate that's in place.
so these proposals are to maintain existing tax rates.
Correct.
And what if they do not pass? Would that lower the tax rates?
Well, our debt rate would remain the same. The sinking fund, if that does not pass, then that millage rate would be taken off the rolls, and so taxpayers would not have to pay millage on that particular proposal.
So how does this affect the average homeowner then paying taxes?
Then, like I said, there's no increase right now, so taxpayers will continue to pay the same millage rate for both the debt and the sinking fund as it's in place right now. So they won't see any increases on their tax bills.
And why is this important for security and safety improvements?
Well, as you know, it's been an issue for school districts over the last several years. And so, like I said, we don't really have the ability funds-wise to be able to do those major improvements on security without existing funds from other sources. And so both the bond and the sinking fund will give us additional resources to be able to make those improvements to improve security in our buildings.
What differences will students and teachers be seeing?
Well, one of the two main things that we're doing this year is we're having buzzer systems in all of our front doors. So in order to get in our buildings, you'll have to be buzzed in. That's a new thing for our district. And then we'll be adding security cameras, and we'll be moving to a swipe card system, security system to get in our buildings that will enable us to monitor every person that's coming in and out of our buildings in every single building in our district.
And if these proposals pass, when would residents see the changes?
As soon as possible. So the sinking fund's in place, so those particular dollars would be right away. The bond, as I mentioned, the $33 million would be sold sometime in November, and we'd begin construction next spring of 2019.
And I know you conducted a survey about community support regarding these millages in the past year. What were the findings?
So in terms of our community, last spring we put out a survey, and we had somewhere in the neighborhood of about 700 to 800 responses, and so it was very positive. I think somewhere around 63 to 64% of those surveyed said they would support a bond issue without increasing taxes. And so that really, in our mind, gave us the green light to move forward to put these proposals together.
Didn't that survey have sort of a breakdown with what people support, athletics, academics, technology?
Correct.
And how important is it for the district to stay up to date with technology and education?
Very important. The classroom of today is a lot different than it looked years ago, and so technology is a big part of that. And so being able to upgrade technology and to be able to add additional devices in our district is very important for our instructional process in the classroom specifically.
Turning back to the dollars and cents of this, the millages pass, when would the tax rates go in, or I guess when would they maintain being in effect?
Well, they're for next year, so they would basically, as I mentioned, the rates aren't going to go up. So our debt millage is still the same as it would be, because we have existing debt, so that wouldn't change. The sinking fund, if in fact that did not pass, then that would go off next year. But if it passes, then like I said before, those rates are just going to remain the same that have been in place for several years.
And how long would they stay in effect?
The debt millage basically stays in place until you pay off the debt. The sinking fund, as I mentioned in the ballot proposal, is for 10 years. So that $450,000 would be for a 10-year period.
How long do you think it would take the district to pay off the debt?
Our current debt that's in place right now, I believe it's around 12 to 13 years. If we do nothing, our current debt would be paid off. By adding on the additional bond, the $33 million, it adds additional time onto our debt beyond that 13 years.
So it means it gives you permission to take longer to pay it off?
Correct.
Okay. I understand the sinking fund is a renewal of another millage proposal. How successful has the district been in the past with passing millage proposals?
As historically, all of our bond issues, other than one, have not passed in the past. All of our sinking fund initial and renewals have all passed in the past. We've not been not successful in any of the sinking fund renewals in the past.
If these proposals, the bonding proposal and the sinking fund, do not pass in August, what would the next steps be for the district?
Well, we would have to go back and try to analyze the data to see why they didn't pass. Hopefully, maybe send out a survey and to say, you know, what was it about the proposals that people didn't like, and hopefully get some feedback to maybe alter that current proposal to then go out sometime in the future with those changes that people can support.
What if one passes and another does not?
Well, we'd have to decide whether we would want to, if the bond passes, obviously we're going to move forward with that construction plan. If the sinking fund doesn't pass, then we'd have to decide, do we want to go back out and take another chance at renewal for that particular millage.
Mm-hmm. In your opinion, which of the two proposals is a higher priority?
They're both a high priority in my mind because, like I say, the bond proposal really gives an upgrade to all of our facilities, and the sinking fund really helps us maintain what we're doing right now. It's not uncommon for districts to have a sinking fund in place to really do those types of things every year that you don't have the general fund K-12 dollars, like to replace roofs, to repair parking lots and things like that, that we generally don't have budget in our general fund to be able to do that. So they're both very important for our district.
Mm-hmm. How confident are you that the millages will pass in August?
Well, if history holds true, I believe that they will pass. But we're trying to work hard over the next 3 weeks to get the information out there and to get the information out to taxpayers, so hopefully that they can make an informed decision. So we're feeling pretty confident, but you never take anything for granted because we want to make sure that people have the information when they go in the voting booth. They're able to make an informed decision as to how they want to vote. So that's really our goal.
Has enrollment in the district affected the millage proposals in any way?
No, enrollment in our district has been pretty flat over the last several years, so the enrollment really is not a big picture. The only thing that we're doing in part of the bond proposal is we're actually adding 4 classrooms at Wilkshire, which is our K-1 building, because when all-day kindergarten went into effect several years ago, it really made it difficult space-wise because we had to add classrooms because now kids are in school all day versus half a day. So the 4 additional classrooms gives us some room to breathe in terms of that particular building.
Mm-hmm. Will you also be hiring new teachers to fill those classrooms, the 4 classrooms?
If we have additional classrooms, yes, we'll be hiring additional teachers.
Mm-hmm. Should these millages pass and the projects go forward, where would residents look to find out new information?
On our website, that's generally the best place. All of our bond information is now available out there for all the projects and all the things that we're going to be doing. We actually put a video together a few weeks ago, and that's out on our website if people want to view that. It gives a nice visual picture of what our plans are for both the bond and the sinking fund. And so if they do pass, we'll be giving updates to the community as those projects begin. And we'll solicit feedback from community to try to get input when we get to the design phase. Because a lot of the projects that we have as a part of the bond are just boilerplate types of things, and so we haven't done the design work yet until we actually pass the proposals.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like voters to know about the proposals?
I think the biggest thing, as I mentioned, is that both of these proposals won't increase tax rates. So taxpayers in our community will continue to pay the same rate that they pay now. So they won't see any increases in their taxes. And I think that's the most important part for families to know, that we're able to do these types of things without increasing taxes. So that's kind of the biggest message for me.
And that is true for both proposals?
Correct.
Okay.
So,
thank you very much.
yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Steve. You're watching Ballot Meridian 2018 primary election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Chloe Peter. Thanks for joining us.